In 2012, a film directed by Taiwanese director made the whole world earn more than 600 million US dollars at the box office and selected 4 prestigious Oscar awards. In China, 1.28 million viewers gave the film an impressive score of 9.1, with more than 60% of them not hesitating to give it a perfect score. However, this film, which seemed perfect in both revenue and reviews, hides a secret that has been hidden until now. Most of the audience still cannot fully understand, because the hidden layers of meaning in it are many times more complex than Inception. At first glance, the director only tells a single story, but when we peel away each layer, we will discover at least 4 stories. It all starts with an Indian boy. The boy's name sounds very similar to the word Xiao Tian, so his friends often tease him with this nickname. Sometimes even the teacher accidentally calls him by the wrong name. Xiao Tian, please answer this question. To escape the ridicule, the boy was determined to learn pi by heart on the first day of the new school year during his self-introduction. He amazed the whole school by reciting pi fluently to thousands of decimal places. Since then, everyone remembered his name Pi. Pi's family owned a large zoo. When his father bought a tiger, Pi curiously reached out to feed it. The tiger cautiously approached, and just as he was about to open its mouth, it stopped. His father shouted, "You cannot make friends with wild animals. They only eat meat." But Pi believed that even wild animals have souls. He could see it in the eyes of the tiger. To teach Pi a lesson about the cruel laws of survival in the animal world, his father put a goat in an iron gate. Then Pi witnessed the ferocious tiger pouncing on the car and killing its prey. Pi's mental world almost collapsed. He had always believed in the existence of God and that all things had souls. So he chose to follow 3 religions: Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam. His father said that if you believe in everything, it means you don't really believe in anything. But with the support of his mother, Pi remained steadfast in his faith. Like his mother, he never ate animals, until a terrible accident at sea happened. In his desperation to survive, he had a whole new perspective on eating meat. Many years later, middle-aged Pi told a writer friend about his unforgettable experiences at the age of 57. He said that at that time he had just met his first love. Their love was passionate, when suddenly in India there was a land riot, and the zoo was seized. For the sake of livelihood, Pi's father decided to take the whole family and the animals to migrate. Pi was forced to say goodbye to his lover and board the ship to Canada with many regrets. There was no vegetarian food on the ship, so Pi had to eat bananas reserved for the animals. When the ship entered the most dangerous sea area of the Pacific Ocean, a big storm arose. The giant waves sank half the ship. In the chaos, Pi was pushed into the lifeboat by someone. Everyone was rushing to jump into the boat when a horse from the deck jumped down first, just as the lifeboat hit the water. Another fierce wave came and sank the ship. Looking at the pitch-black sea, Pi was extremely scared. Suddenly, he saw a survivor struggling in the water, trying to swim towards the lifeboat. Pi quickly reached out his oar to help. But when the person got closer, he was horrified to realize that it was the tiger in his zoo. It was too late to regret. Pi was scared and climbed onto the bow of the boat, holding onto the boom pole, like that he stayed there all night. The next morning, the tiger was nowhere to be seen. Pi climbed down to rest for a while. Then a seagull crawled out from the boat's hold. Although small, the seagull was very fierce, so Pi had to climb up the boom pole again. A moment later, a female seagull drifted over on a bunch of bananas. Pi was happy that at least the gentle seagull that didn't eat meat could keep him company. Despite the danger, Pi used the oar to pull the seagull onto the boat. Where was the human's child? The seagull turned its head to look at Pi, then looked back at the vast ocean, its eyes filled with infinite sadness. At this moment, the seasick seagull also woke up. It was so hungry that it saw the zebra with an injured leg that could not move, so it rushed to tear it apart. Pi could only helplessly watch the zebra being attacked. Fearing that he would also become a delicious piece of meat for the evil spirit, Pi climbed up the boom pole again, and stayed there until the next morning. When the cold sea water splashed on him, he woke up. After a night of seasickness, all the animals lay motionless on the boat. Pi quickly took the opportunity to open the storage compartment at the bow of the boat. Inside, there was a life-saving manual and necessary survival items to prevent being captured and attacked. Pi used a life jacket and oars to make a life raft. Just as he was about to enter the water, the orangutan suddenly appeared and chased after the orangutan. The orangutan fought back fiercely and punched the orangutan, knocking it over. Pi was overjoyed, thinking that the orangutan could control the orangutan. As herbivores are not good at fighting, the orangutan had just sat down to rest when the ferocious tiger pounced on it and dragged it down to the deck of the boat. The orangutan's death made Pi extremely angry. He knew that if he did not fight, the next one to die would be him. Pi pulled out his dagger and roared at the orangutan. Come here, come here. Suddenly, the tiger that was making waves and lying in the boat's hold suddenly jumped up. Pi hurriedly pushed the homemade raft into the sea, then used the canopy to fight off the tiger's attacks. Luckily, the tiger seemed unable to climb the tarpaulin and temporarily gave up, so Pi took the opportunity to jump into the sea. On the 3rd day, while the tiger was still awake, Pi secretly climbed onto the boat and transferred all the rescue supplies to the raft while eating compressed biscuits. He discovered that there was a mouse in the cabin. The little mouse's cry woke up the tiger, saw it open its mouth full of fangs ready to attack. Pi quickly threw the mouse into the tiger's mouth and jumped into the sea. That evening, the man and the tiger faced each other in silence. Pi could not hold back his tears. He did not know how much longer he could endure this kind of life. On the 4th day, the sea was as calm as a sheet of paper, as still as a giant mirror. The dawn light dyed the water's surface pink, creating a scene as beautiful as a fairyland. Pi mustered up all his courage to approach the lifeboat and lift the tarpaulin. His eyes were not the sharp eyes of a tiger. Even though he had gathered all his courage, he knew he could not fight this ferocious beast. Pi could only look up at the sky. He prays to the gods he worships to guide him to find a way to live. But survival is a long journey that requires perseverance. Based on the survival manual, Pi learns how to get fresh water, how to catch sea creatures, and how to live with large carnivores. He understands that to survive he must live with the tiger because he cannot be friends with it, so Pi decides to try to tame it. The first step, Pi blew loudly and shook the boat hard, making the tiger dizzy and disoriented. The second step, he divided the territory. This is my place, do you understand? Your place, my place, do you understand? Pi did not give up. He used a solar-powered seawater distillation device to get fresh water and brought it to the tiger to drink. But water alone was not enough because tigers were carnivores, needing at least 5 kilograms of raw meat every day. Pi took out his fishing hook to fish for the tiger to eat. But before he could cast his line, the hungry tiger dived into the sea to hunt for prey. This was a good opportunity. Taking advantage of the time when the tiger was still in the water, Pi quickly climbed onto the lifeboat and pulled the entire raft towards him. Seeing the tiger clinging to the rope trying to climb up, Pi picked up the knife and shouted loudly. The once fierce tiger now only dared to stick half its head out of the water, looking pitiful. Pi remembered his faith and softened his heart. He removed the boat's lid to make a bridge, helped the tiger onto the boat, and then returned to the small raft. The next day, Pi used a net to catch a grouper, which struggled violently. In a moment of danger, Pi instinctively used his kite to hit the fish's head until it died, watching the fish turn from green to red. Pi cried and thanked the gods for giving him food to sustain his life, but he knew that was just an excuse to justify his killing. At night, the boat drifted through an area of the sea where jellyfish gathered, sparkling like the Milky Way in the sky. Pi happily raised his hand to stir the water, and suddenly a giant whale jumped out of the water. The force of the fall caused the raft to capsize, and all the biscuits and fresh water fell into the sea, and Pi's food supply was gone. The next day, as Pi climbed into the lifeboat, a strange school of flying fish flew by like a hail of bullets, leaving him unable to open his eyes. A large fish, chasing the flying fish, also jumped out of the water, falling straight into the boat's hold. The tiger was about to eat the big fish. Pi suddenly chased and stabbed the stick into its mouth. The tiger was discouraged by the man's momentum. Pi successfully took the prey back from the tiger's mouth. This time, he forgot all his faith. In his mind there was only the thought of eating meat to survive. In the following days, Pi used a sharp stick to defend himself against the tiger. If it was obedient, he was rewarded with a piece of fish, but if it was disobedient, he would hit it with the stick. After a while, the taming method was effective. Just like that, Pi and the tiger drifted at sea for more than 100 days. One day, Pi saw a ship from afar. He quickly took out his gun and shot a signal into the sky, but the ship did not detect him. However, this experience gave him more hope of survival. Seeing the tiger staring down at the sea, Pi curiously asked, "What do you see under the water?" The tiger turned its head to look at Pi, then looked down at the sea. Pi also looked at him and saw countless animals swimming at the bottom of the sea. Then a flower appeared, then transformed into the shape of his mother. Pi was speechless because he had been drifting at sea for so long that he could no longer distinguish between day and night, nor could he tell what was a dream and what was reality. He thought life would continue like that, but the weather at sea was unpredictable. A big storm came. The rain, wind, and waves battered Pi and the tiger until they were exhausted. The sea finally calmed down, but the tiger was already dying. Pi tried to give it water, but it seemed depressed as if it felt that life was meaningless. Pi placed the tiger's head on his lap to comfort it. This was the first time Pi was so close to the tiger. He bowed his head, and tears fell as if waiting for death. The boat drifted and Pi fell asleep. When he woke up, Pi found himself drifting on a strange island. The place was covered with lush green trees. Pi dug up a green ginger root and put it in his mouth. It had been a long time since he had eaten vegetarian food, and it felt so delicious. Going deeper into the island, Pi saw countless merkits running around the clear lakes. Pi jumped into the lake without hesitation. Seeing so much food, the tiger was no longer gloomy. A merkit eating a buffet was also not scared. What a great spirit of sacrifice. To thank the island for saving his life, Pi took off the rope of safety that his lover had given him and tied it to a tree. The rope had faded from the years of rain and sun. Pi built a nest in a tree to sleep. He saw countless dead fish in the lake. The tiger hid in the boat and did not dare to come ashore. Pi picked a glowing flower from his head. He peeled it open and found a tooth inside. He was shocked to realize that this was a carnivorous island. During the day it was fine, but at night, all the trees could take lives. This place was definitely not a place to stay for long. The next day, Pi dug up a lot of ginger and caught some merkit for the tiger. Then they continued to drift at sea. 227 days after the shipwreck, Pi finally saw a beach. The sand stretched out like the hand of the Virgin Mary. The moment he touched the sand, Pi completely dropped all his defenses and lay down on the beach. The tiger also jumped into the boat and headed straight for the forest. Pi thought that the tiger would come back to him, or at least look back. But without saying anything, he just walked into the deep forest, disappearing from Pi's life forever. When people found him, Pi burst into tears. At this point, middle-aged Pi told his friend Van that at that time he cried not because he was happy to be saved, but because he was sad. The tiger had been with him through many storms, just like his parents. Then it left without a word of goodbye. The tiger was the only link between him and the past, a companion through life and death. Yet it left so coldly, without even looking at him once. Pai was then taken to the hospital. Two investigators from a Japanese shipping company came to see him, asking about the accident. Pai recounts everything that happened during his 227 days at sea. But the investigators point out suspicious points in his story, surviving on an island that eats the milk of the sea. How is this possible? He says, my son, sitting on a bunch of bananas floating to his boat. How can a banana float in the sea? The second investigator wondered. They thought that Pai's story was completely made up and asked him to tell a more realistic story for their report. Pai thought for a while and then told another story. After boarding the boat, an evil chef gave Pai's mother a bowl of rice with meat sauce. Pai's mother, who was a vegetarian, was very upset. She was about to ask for another bowl when the chef became angry. Not long after the accident, for people were lucky to survive. The evil cook and a sailor got into the lifeboat first. The sailor unfortunately broke his leg when they met Pai playing in the water. The cook threw a life preserver to Pai. Then Pai's mother also grabbed a bunch of bananas and swam to the boat. After many days and nights, the sailor's leg wound became infected. The cook cut off his leg to save his life. A few days later, because he was so hungry, he not only ate a rat but also killed the sailor who had lost his leg. He ate him to survive. A week later, Pai released a sea turtle because of his faith. The chef interacted brutally to protect his son, but Pai's mother slapped him in the face. The chef held a grudge in his heart and did not dare to fight back. But when Pai's mother was not paying attention, she touched her neck. The blood attracted flying fish. In order to take revenge, Pai killed the chef and ate him to survive. Obviously, the second story is almost identical to the first story. The only difference is that the animals are replaced by humans. More cruel and dark, the sailor with the broken leg is the zebra. The spirit is the chef. The dove is Pai's mother, and Pai is the last surviving tiger. So it is easy to understand why in the first story, the tiger did not turn back when he was saved. Drifting on the ocean is a jungle society where the strong eat the weak. To survive, Pai fought inhumanly and became a beast. But when returning to the civilized world, that instinct can only be hidden in the inner forest. No one wants to look back at the past. The first time Pai lied, turning all humans into animals, was to hide the terrible truth. But the second story is still not true, because the truth is even more terrifying than what he told. In the second story, Pai still insists that his mother clung to the bananas and drifted to the boat. This is the first absurdity. The second absurdity is that his mother turned off the stove, but he did not fight back. How could a hot-tempered person like Lin Khan not fight back? In fact, the hidden details of the film reveal a third story. First of all, Pai's father suffered from polio and had a crippled leg. Therefore, the first person to jump into the boat was not a horse or a sailor, but Pai's father. The 4 people on the lifeboat were Pai's family. Pai's father's leg was infected. In order to save his life, Pai's brother helped him amputate his leg. But Pai's father died from too much pain. To survive, Pai's brother threw his father's flesh into the sea to use as fishing bait. Pai's mother was so heartbroken that she gave Pai's brother a kiss. If a mother hits her son, of course the son will not hit back. Later, because Pai released the sea turtle, he was attacked by his brother. Pai's mother came to stop him, but was accidentally killed by her brother. To avenge his mother, Pai killed his brother. In the end, only Pai survived. Pai lied to hide this cruel truth. However, the director also added a fourth hidden story. Someone relied on the insurance report of the transport company, said that there was no report that day. At the same time, it is speculated that Pai's father intentionally created the train accident because he wanted to defraud insurance. This is completely fabricated. In the accident, only Pai survived. All the information of the shipping company was provided by Pai. Pai clearly stated that the ship encountered a leopard. Moreover, Pai's father, with his disabled body, could not have intentionally caused the shipwreck. Then he left the whole family adrift at sea for more than half a year. But the director did leave many hidden details. For example, the mouse on the boat. Who does it represent? Why does the shape of the cannibal island resemble a woman? When the writer interviewed middle-aged Pai, he cried and said, "I have lost too much. My family, the zoo, India, my lover." That year when he was saved, Pai could have gone to find his lover, but he didn't. He insisted that he had lost her. Middle-aged Pai told the writer that he had no memory of the day he broke up with his lover. But for someone who can remember thousands of decimal places of Pai, such selective memory loss is hard to convince. There is only one possibility. Pai's lover was on the ship with him. The mouse represents her. This is the fourth story. The strange carnivorous island is definitely Pai's lie. So what did Pai eat to survive? Actually, the director also gave a hint. The shape of the island resembles a woman's body. The trees are like meridians and blood vessels. Countless sandflies that look like wriggling legs. The lake that corrodes fish like human stomach acid. The tooth in the flower, and Pai removing the safety rope his lover left on the island to survive. What did Pai do in the end? Pai's father once told him that a person who believes in everything is the same as not really believing in anything. Pai is such a person. Whatever the truth is, the meaning of the film is only one. Pai was the only survivor on the entire ship. The name Pai is also interesting. It is an irrational, non-repeating number. Just like the ending of the movie. Forever is a mystery that you can never fully explain. People always do not want to accept the cruelty, thinking that life is only beautiful. So most people prefer the first story because it has reason, humanity, and love. But you should understand that Pai's life is not a fairy tale. In 1884, his ship named Mignonette sank. Only 4 sailors made it to the lifeboat. To survive, 3 sailors joined forces to kill the youngest and eat him. When they reached shore, these 3 should have been executed, but the queen pardoned them and gave them only 6 months in prison. The sailor who was interacted with was named Richard Parker. Yes, the same name as Pi's tiger, Richard Parker, who returned to the literary world that day on the beach. Cruel instincts stare at good humanity. It does not hesitate to forever hide in the inner forest. In civilized society, Pi is just like everyone else. Working, living, getting married, and having children, no different from ordinary people. Today's story ends here. Thank you for watching the movie. What do you think of this movie? Please comment below.